Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's August 24th, 2025 in New Goloka, Hillsborough, North Carolina. We're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 65, Text 9. Gopyo hasancha praprachu Rama sandarsanadritaha Kachchiraste sukham Krishna Purastri janabalava. So Gopyo, if this is the gopis are talking. What is hasya? Smiling. Good. Okay, and Rama here is going to be referring to whom? Balaram. And let's look at this. Sukha means what? Happiness. Sukham Krishna, they're asking if Krishna is happy. Pura means what? A city. Strijana. What's Strijana? Ladies. So the city ladies. Vallabha, like we say, Radha Vallabha. What does Vallabha mean? Enjoying. So what do you think, without looking at a translation, what do you think Sukham Krishna Pura Strijana Vallabha means? Is Krishna happy with the city ladies? Gopyaha, the young cowherd girls. Hasantyaha, smiling. Praprachtuhu, asked Rama of Lord Balarama. Sandarshana, due to the personal audience. Adritaha, honoring. Kachchit, whether. Aste, is living. Sukham, happily. Krishna, Krishna. Pura, of the city. Strijana, of the women. Vallabha, the darling. So this is again, Balaram is visiting Vrindavan from Dwarka, and now the young gopis are talking to him. BBT translation, Sukadev Goswami continued, honoring Lord Balaram because they had attained his personal audience, the young gopis smiled and asked him, is Krishna the darling of the city women living happily? How Srila Prabhupada translates this in Krishna book, is when the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. That's how Prabhupada's translating the Adritya. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarka Puri. BBT purport. According to the Acharyas, Lord Krishna's beloved girlfriends were smiling with divine madness, since they were feeling extreme unhappiness in separation from their beloved Krishna. Lord Rama deeply respected their great love for Sri Krishna, his younger brother, and thus the term Rama Sandarshan Adritya carries the meaning that Balaram honored the gopis, as well as the given meaning that they honored him. Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. The gopis mentioned here are those who were dedicated to Krishna. They would meet secretly together at all times in order to hear news of him. They went to Balaram in a group to tell him to bring Krishna, as they had done when meeting Uddhava. Although they were still aggrieved, they laughed. This is a symptom of unmada. What's unmada? Madness. They laughed in order to mock Krishna. They inquired from his elder brother, because of a great longing for Krishna, who was also in a state of ummada. According to Sridhar Swami, they showed respect, adritya, on seeing Balaram by offering obeisances, or they were honored with the direct presence of Balaram, who was more intimate with Krishna than Uddhava. This was better than previous internal spurtis. Although having full faith that Krishna would return, they laughed with hatred because he had left them. Still, because of their natural pure prema, they just made the following inquiry, since he was their only happiness. Is he happy? And Balaram could reply, how can he be happy without you? Their reply would be, having obtained city women, distant from country women, he can be happy. Or does he remember our worship incidentally anew after associating with the city women? Commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The smiling hasantya of the gopis was a sign of their unmada, transcendental madness and prema. Otherwise, how would it be possible for such extremely shy girls suffering such intense pain of separation from Krishna to smile in front of Baladev? Understanding that this was a sign of their mahabhava, Balaram gave them great respect rather than disregarding them. Thus it is described that Balaram honored adritya, them with his affectionate glance, Rama Sandarshana. So you notice that Srila Prabhupada translated this as Balaram glancing on them. Darshana is to see, and that's how Prabhupada translated it in Krishna book. Going on with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Because he understood that these gopis were the dearly beloved devotees of Krishna and were filled with pure love for his younger brother. The gopis asked, is Krishna happy there in Dwarka? Balaram said, how could Krishna be happy being separated from you? The gopis replied, Krishna is enjoying with many beautiful women in the city, so how could he be suffering any unhappiness of separation from us village girls? Certainly he must be happy. Gopyo ha sanja praprachu Rama sandarshana drityaha kachiraste sukham Krishna purastri janavalabha. Honoring Lord Balaram because they had attained his personal audience, the young gopis smiled and asked him, is Krishna, the darling of the city women, living happily? So here we find that the gopis, Balaram, and Krishna are all in a state of unmada. They're all in a state of madness, right? Divine madness in love. And Balaram and Krishna's gopis are recognizing this unmada as divine love in each other. So Balaram's recognizing the gopis are crazy in love for Krishna, and the gopis are recognizing Balaram's crazy in love, and therefore they're honoring each other, adrityaha. They're showing honor to each other. This is not just the ordinary etiquette of this world. You know, in this world we show honor and respect to people according to their status in the world. And then we show respect to all living entities as part of Krishna. But this is the respect of Balaram and Krishna's gopis respecting their mutual madness. So this is our aspiration, to become mad in love for Krishna, correct? Yes? But we're also told to be dhira, which is exactly the opposite of madness. Dhira means what? Very sober. It's exactly the opposite of unmada. So how is it that we are both supposed to be dhira and yet aspiring for unmada? So first we're going to look at this, a concept of dhira, what Krishna calls the stita di muni, someone who's fixed in meditation. And we should be becoming ourselves dhira, and we should only be hearing from dhiras, according to the Ishopanishad. At the same time, we want to become absorbed in divine love so that we enter into a state of madness. So how are we going to we're going to look at each of these separately, and then we're going to think about how are we going to harmonize them. In order to harmonize them, we're going to look at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions and also his examples. So then in Bhagavad Gita 256, Krishna uses the term stita di muni. So stita means what? To stay. It means stable. It's actually related to the English word stay and stable. And di means like meditation, contemplation, and a muni is a thoughtful person. So one who's fixed in their meditation. Yes, Srila Prabhupada translates 256 as one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated where there is happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a stage of steady mind. Now, is this theme repeated throughout the Shastra, that we should be like this? I mean, is this like a one-off verse, or is this a repeated instruction? Repeated. All over the place, right? When Krishna says, who's dear to him in the 12th chapter, what kind of examples is he giving? Anybody know? People always ask, how can I please Krishna? I say, well, read chapter 12, 13 to 20. One who is fixed in firm devotion. What else? One who is not affected by modes of material nature. What else? Krishna talks about it also the end of the 2nd chapter and the 14th chapter, talks about it all over the Bhagavad Gita. Unaffected by what? Heat and cold, yeah? Happiness and distress. What else? Honor and dishonor, fame and infamy, who regards friends, enemies, he says, neutral with an equal mind. This is in the 6th chapter. Who looks at pebbles, stone, gold, and the same. Who's unaffected. And I think that in the world in general, a concept of a saintly person is something like that. Just this very sober, unaffected person. Am I correct? Very equipoised. One time, when Srila Prabhupada was giving a class, somebody was making some comments that were offensive, and Prabhupada became very angry. And then one of the participants in the audience said, you shouldn't be angry, you should just chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, yes, thank you, that's very good advice, and he started a kirtan. So this is the general concept. Right? Not being affected by happiness and distress. Krishna says not being attached to any residence. And this concept, people come in and out of our lives, and the Bhagavatam refers this to straws in a river, debris in a river. If you've ever seen a flowing river, and the debris comes together, and sometimes it comes together on the side of the river, and it stays together for a long time, and the current is just flowing in the middle. But then sometimes the current pulls it from the side, and it goes everywhere. Yesterday, the day before, I was seeing Kamalini, who'd found one of her shoes that had been lost in the flood. And it was just like lying somewhere, So it comes someplace else. And all of our possessions, all of our associates, they're like that. And all the ups and downs in our life are like that. Am I correct? Right? There are so many things that we got upset about last week or last year or 5 years ago, and we don't even remember what they were anymore. Isn't this true for everybody? Like I can remember, at this time, I was having an argument with this person. But what were we arguing about? I can't even remember. Yes, or even if you can remember, it's gone. So the dhira is like that. It's like the thoughts, the desires, Krishna says in 270, like rivers entering into an ocean, which is always being filled but is always still. So the dhira is seeing the material thoughts, the material feelings, the material attachments, the relationships as just flowing by them without affecting them, that they're not identifying with them. And these are the people that we go to as saintly persons, right? Ishopanishad Mantra 10. Anyad evahur vidyaya. Ahur avidyaya iti shushumadhiranam yeyastad vichachakshare. Iti shushu adhiranam. You should hear this from a dhira. You should hear this knowledge from a dhira. Prabhupada writes in that purport, this mantra states the instructions of vidya, knowledge, must be acquired from a dhira. A dhira is one who is not disturbed by material illusion. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers nor laments for anything. All right, but then we have this situation of unmada, this madness. Now we found, right, that when Madhavendra Puri was leaving his body, he was also in this kind of madness like the gopis. When will I ever attain Mathura? And what did Ramachandra Puri say to him? You should be absorbed in Raman. He said, you should be a dhira. Why are you doing sochati kanchati? Why are you hankering or lamenting? And people can look at the behavior of the gopis here and say, oh, well, they're hankering and lamenting. They're affected by happiness and distress. They're affected by meeting and separation. So how is that? And you find that most religions of the world do not discuss how God is a person, correct? Vast majority, even the vast majority of people who follow the Vedas tend to be impersonal. And one reason is that these emotions of the personal are very hard to understand. People will immediately put some material conception on it. Oh, you're not actually dhira. Now, the thing is, one cannot maintain one's equilibrium without some transcendental madness. Therefore, we find, right, that the impersonalists, avasuddha buddhiya, they're not fully purified. We all actually hanker for some kind of madness and attachment and love and not just equilibrium. Correct? People want to fall in love, and love is crazy. The word for a beautiful young woman, one word in the Sanskrit for a beautiful young woman, anyone know? Pramada, one who makes you crazy. Do people get crazy when they fall in love? Yeah. And preparing for this class, I was thinking of a song when I was young, when a man loves a woman, if she cheats him, he'll never know. He'll be the last one to know. He'll do everything. If she says, I want to sleep outside, she'll sleep outside. He'll sleep outside. Whatever, this is madness. The love of parents for their children is like this. In the animal kingdom, the parents will lure the predator away and die for their children. Yes? So we want this. We're not going to be satisfied just with material neutrality. So I want to look at a very famous verse, a verse that's quoted a lot, 11:240. Evam vrata swapriyanam akritya chatanurago jutachitra uchai hasyato roditi roya gayati unmada, we have this unmada again, unmada van richiti lokabhaya. The BBT translation in the 11th canto is, by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or shouts, or cries. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to public opinion. So on the BBT purport, they're quoting from Srila Prabhupada, commenting on CC Adi 783. Prabhupada says, these symptoms are very prominently manifest in the body of a pure devotee. Sometimes when our students of the Krishna consciousness movement chant and dance, even in India, people are astonished to see how these foreigners have learned to chant and dance in this ecstatic fashion. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, this is not due to practice, For without extra endeavor, these symptoms become manifest in anyone who sincerely chants the Hare Krishna mantra. And we see, especially in kirtans, the devotees can exhibit some madness. Correct? Yes. Our kirtans can get pretty wild. And this is a natural symptom of loving Krishna, that one wants to chant and dance without caring what other people think. We go on the streets of the cities of the world. How many people? It's only like, so I'm about to visit London, and if I stay at the Soho Street Temple, there's a bar next door, a gay bar. And there's a lot of entertainment and stuff going on in the area, and people are intoxicated, and they're going on the street loudly singing and laughing. And in the summer, if you don't have the window open, it's very stuffy. But you have the window open and you're hearing these people, they're tamagun version of madness and kirtan, So people think like that. Well, the Hare Krishna devotees going on the street, dancing and chanting, they're also crazy. People thought like that. People thought they must be brainwashed. I'm listening to some lectures Prabhupada's speaking about when the court cases were going on, that we were brainwashing people. He said people are accusing, you must be brainwashed. Why else would you be singing and dancing in the streets? Who does this? Some people think like that we're crazy. I wanted to look at some other examples from the Shastra of this madness. One is about Lord Ramachandra from 9:10:11 Bhagavatam purport. This is also talking about separation, like today's verse, we're looking at the separation between the gopis and Krishna. Prabhupada writes, the separation of Lord Ramachandra from Sita is spiritually understood as Vipralamba, which is an activity of the Ladini potency belonging to the Sringara Ras, the mellow of conjugal love in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has all the dealings of love, displaying the symptoms called Sattvika, Sanchari, Vilapa, Murcha, and Unmada. So again, today we're looking at this Unmada, this madness. Thus, when Lord Ramachandra was separated from Sita, all these spiritual symptoms were manifested. The Lord is neither impersonal nor impotent. Rather, he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the eternal form of knowledge and bliss. Thus, he has all the symptoms of spiritual bliss. Feeling separation from one's beloved is also an item of spiritual bliss. As explained by Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vriktir Ladini Shakti, the dealings of love between Radha and Krishna are displayed as the pleasure potency of the Lord. The Lord is the original source of all pleasure, the reservoir of all pleasure. Lord Ramachandra therefore manifested the truth both spiritually and materially. Materially, those who are attached to women suffer, but spiritually, when there are feelings of separation between the Lord and his pleasure potency, the spiritual bliss of the Lord increases. So here the Lord Balaram, his spiritual bliss is increasing, and describing the separation of Krishna in Dwarka, his bliss is increasing, the gopis' bliss is increasing. Now I want to look also specifically at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing the mood of a devotee to try to give us an example. Prabhupada says example is better than precept. That doesn't just mean that you should walk your talk. It also means that when you give a specific example of something, it's easier to understand it. If we just say, well, you should do this, you should fall in love with Krishna. Well, what does that look like? And Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu actually gives this example of being both a sober dhira and being in transcendental madness, correct? Yes? Let's look at CC Madhya 187. The Unmada, or madness, is not ordinary madness. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked inconsistently, almost like a crazy fellow, he was in the transcendental ecstasy of love. In the transcendental ecstasy, there's a feeling of being enchanted in the presence of the enchanter. When the enchanter and the enchanted become separated, mohana, or bewilderment, occurs. When so bewildered due to separation, one becomes stunned, and at that time, all the bodily symptoms of transcendental ecstasy are manifest. When they are manifest, one appears inconceivably crazy. So we also want to look at CC Madhya 266. The symptoms of madness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu served as an impetus for remembering Krishna. The mood of ecstasy awoke love, disdain, deformation by words, pride, honor, and indirect prayer. These are all technically called Vyavichari or Sanchari bhavs. Thus, Krishna was sometimes blasphemed and sometimes honored. Just like we're reading in today's verse that the gopis were angry at Krishna. How could you leave us? From Srila Prabhupada's purport. The word unmada is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as extreme joy, misfortune, and bewilderment in the heart due to separation. So actually, the classes we're doing right now with the VIHE on the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we're just talking about the Vyavichari bhavs, the various moving emotions, and how sometimes many emotions are contained in another emotion. So this emotion of unmada, it's containing joy, extreme joy, misfortune, and bewilderment, all mixing together. Going on with Prabhupada's purport, symptoms of unmada are laughing like a madman. The gopis are laughing here. They're smiling, they're laughing, although they're feeling this separation. Dancing, singing, performing ineffectual activities, talking nonsense, which is particularly exemplified by Srimati Radharani when she speaks with the B in front of Uddhava, yes. Running, shouting, and sometimes working in contrary ways. All right, so what are we going to do with these things? What are we going to do with the fact that we have to become dear? There's no alternative. We have to become sober to the material ups and downs of the world. And yet, we want to become crazy in love for Krishna. So how are we going to bring these together? So we look at some instructions from Mahaprabhu in Madhya 22, 156 to 157. This is instructions, of course, in Madhya 22, Mahaprabhu is talking to Sanatana Goswami. One executes its Raganuga Bhakti in two ways, external and internal. When self-realized, the advanced devotee externally remains like a neophyte and executes all the Shastric injunctions, especially those concerning hearing and chanting. But within his mind, in his original purified, self-realized position, he serves Krishna in Vrindavan in his particular way. He serves Krishna 24 hours a day, all day and night. So here Mahaprabhu is saying, internally be crazy, but externally be sober. When Raghunath Das Goswami was trying to run away from home to follow Lord Chaitanya says, stop acting externally crazy. Go home and behave. You'll get an opportunity. And then when Lord Nityananda came for the Panihati, and then Raghunath Das Goswami had an opportunity in the Panihati festival. Now, those of us who joined the Hare Krishna movement, many of us joined like Raghunath Das Goswami running away from home, didn't we? Right? Yesterday, I was giving a class in Bangladesh over the internet, of course, about my meetings with Srila Prabhupada. And, they're asking how I joined the movement and how I met Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking about how, I dropped out of college, gave my car back to my parents, packed a little tiny suitcase. I wasn't even sure if in the temple I would be allowed to use like shampoo, or something like that. How austere did I have? Just giving everything and just running to the movement without caring for anything, without caring, what did my parents think? What did my friends think? What's going to happen to my education? What's going to happen to anything? It was a little crazy, actually. I mean, it really was a little crazy. Going to the airports and just running up to businessmen wearing these. They weren't even real saris, They were just like polycotton cloth that was really, really thick. We'd have to pin it on our head for it to stay on our head. We'd have to put a safety pin here. If you clipped it to your hair, it would have taken your hair out. And the pin would move. It would look like this after an hour. So, great big tilak and great big nose rings and running up to people and, would you like this book about love of God, And I remember this one man coming up to me and saying, you all look a little crazy. And I was thinking, how offensive. But actually, we did look a little crazy. And so we have this also, even sometimes externally, and devotees may appear a little crazy. All right? But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also set an example, and I find this very important and instructive for ourselves. This is from Anjalila 1877 to 79. Krishnadas Kaviraj says, the Lord remained in one of three different states of consciousness at all times. Does anyone know the three states of consciousness of Lord Chaitanya? It's very important for ourselves because this is an example for ourselves. Mahaprabhu is actually trying to set an example. So internal, external, and half external. So when the Lord was deeply absorbed in internal consciousness, now when he was deeply, deeply in internal consciousness, then he was what? Unresponsive to the world, correct? Like when he's captured by the fishermen, or when he goes into this kurma-like form, he's unresponsive. This morning I was reading in Bhagavatam about when Maharaj Pariksit goes to Shanaka Rishi, and Shanaka Rishi was in deep samadhi. And so he was, to be in samadhi, you have to be pratyahara first. You're unaware of anything. Something like how in deep sleep we lose awareness of the external world. So when Mahaprabhu was in internal consciousness, completely unaware. But when the Lord was deeply going on with this purport, when the Lord was deeply absorbed in internal consciousness, but he nevertheless exhibited some external consciousness, devotees called his condition arjabhaya, or half external. In this half external consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked like a madman. The devotees could distinctly hear him talking to the sky. He's describing Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. So when he's internal, he's not relating with the outside world at all. When he's in external consciousness, he's behaving like a dhira. And Mahaprabhu was particularly in external consciousness when the devotees would visit from Bengal, except during the Rath Yatra festival. When he was preaching to people like, when he was going on his tour and preaching to people like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or the sannyasis in Varanasi, then he's in external consciousness. And we notice when Lord Chaitanya is dealing with Ramananda Roya, he starts feeling all these symptoms of ecstasy, and he notices there are people around who are being critical, so he goes into external consciousness. So generally, we work in external consciousness, where we're dealing with the world in a very sober way. And internally, we're focusing on our relationship with Krishna. But sometimes, devotees can get in kirtans and festivals, or when we're gathering with like-minded devotees, then we can go more deeply into this love, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would do with Ramananda Roy, with Swarup Damodar, and so forth. As we're advancing, we want to embrace this internal madness of love. Right? What is Srila Rupa Goswami praying? What is very nice prayers? He says, Yuvatinam yata yuni, yuvam cha yuvato yata, manobaramate tadvan manume ramatam twayi. Just like young men and women they're crazy in love for each other. So we want to be crazy in love for Krishna. And materialists cannot understand this. Right? As Krishna says very nicely, Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagarti bhutani sa nishta pasyato muni. What's night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So this divine madness is not understood by the world. Therefore, it should generally be kept internally and only exhibited appropriately, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. The gopis are exhibiting this madness privately with Balaram, not publicly. So we have a couple minutes if anyone has any questions, comments, additions, subtractions, chastisements. Maharaj? Nothing? Anybody else? How do we stay engaged 24 hours a day? We can only do that after we've gotten rid of at least half of our anartas. We're not going to be able to be fully nista as long as we're carrying around a bunch of anartas, because those anartas are going to pull us in all different directions. So until we reach that point, we have to be patient, because it's only at Nista and Ruchi that our mind automatically easily goes back to Krishna. And at Ashakti, our mind goes to Krishna without any endeavor, even if there's something material going on. And therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in commenting on always remember Krishna and never forget him, he says the neophytes can't do this, but at least you have some sadhana time where you're just thinking of Krishna. And you try as much as possible during the day. Prabhupada would say, everyone drinks water. Remember, Krishna is the taste of water. Somehow or other, connect our consciousness with Krishna. And gradually, more and more, we should see that we're connecting more and more and more. So we could see that maybe I can remember Krishna 30 seconds more today than yesterday. And as we get purified of these anarthas, we'll find that steadiness increasing more and more. Anything good here is from Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas. Any mistakes here are mine. Please take the good and leave aside the mistakes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.